So I do have the Philly fade here. Penn State was my pick last night, even though that was a game where I would not have picked either side. If I was actually at a sports book, I would just say, good luck with that. I'll just watch and go from there. But so we're going to go to the Philly fade here. And we are through, I'll pull it up on here. Um, Through the first week, I am 2-3 on the season, 2-3 on the calendar year 2025. And when we look at the calendar year and how I break it down, I break down my monthly stats and my yearly stats by when that pick is given. So let's say we had a couple of picks that carried over into the new year. They went into the 2024 stats because of the fact that when even though it gets into that gray area, and I'm just like, you know what? Just for my record keeping, we're just going to do it as 2024. So, so we did have a couple of last picks of 2024 where we had, um, like for example, like I gave you Oregon over Ohio State. That was a loss, but that counts towards 2024 because that pick was given out on December 28th. And the Notre Dame game over Georgia, that game was that was a December game, even though it was played in January because of when it was given out. So, but but we are in January, and last week we went 2-3. I tried to tackle some college basketball for you guys. I tried to poke the bear that was Chicago State. I tried to go for that low hanging fruit. Wagner was 8-5 or something like that. Chicago State was 0-15. It was the first time they were playing a game in the Northeast Conference after playing in playing as an independent the last couple of years, and they upset Wagner. And I had told you guys to take Wagner -10. That was a loss, lost 1.15 units on that. Then I told you to take Georgetown -1 over Xavier. That was a win. So we're a little under. Um, then my NFL picks, I told you to take Eagles and Eagles and Giants longest field goal under 48.5 yards. And I thought I was home on this. We got to the middle of the fourth quarter and Brian Daboll's trying to get his ass fired. You know, despite the meetings that he had. And he basically said, we're not winning this game or whatever. And, or actually some of the things that they did actually worked out the way that they ass backwardsly planned things. So they had Graham Gano kick a 53-yard field goal and it skimmed off the crossbar and in. So it was like, all right, well, that's a loss. So then I told you guys to take Miami -1. That was a loss. That's another -1.08. But I did tell you to take Arizona -4. They blew out San Francisco, so that's a +1 there. So I'm 2-3 so far in the young year, and I am at -1.23 units so far in 2025. So let me pull up DraftKings here. And the one thing is, even though I use DraftKings, I don't have a sponsor. If you're out there watching, even after the fact, and you do, and you're a sportsbook operator, especially some of the big boys like FanDuel, DraftKings, all those other ones, hit me up, hit AJ up, and who knows, maybe we can work on something. And Penn State has taken the lead, 24-17, uh, just to let you guys know. So let's get to college football here. And From what I am seeing, um, I have not seen anything about the Cotton Bowl. Now, what I mean by that is, uh, when you look at those games, um, well, when you look at the weather, they're supposed to get 4 to 6 inches of snow. And let me just pull up the weather app here so I can actually. Um, Let me see here. Okay, so it's 33 degrees and snowing in Arlington at the moment. Um, so it is supposed to stop within the next couple hours here. My app is not telling me how much snow they've had today, but uh, 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected. They had 0.75 inches of precipitation. I guess that's the liquid equivalent. Um, but the one thing I would say to you guys is there may be that they did have a contingency plan in place in case the roads are so icy that to they can't get to the stadium. Anybody can get to the stadium. So there was a contingency plan, but I haven't heard anything new on that. So it looks like the game is on. So um, now the one thing I did notice, the one thing I was thinking when we were thinking it was going to be Oregon just plowing through the field like we thought they would, which they didn't do. And the one thing I said was, the one thing I noticed was after that game against Ohio State, if Oregon had won, they would have been playing Texas in Dallas, which would be a road game. Which based on everything and the way they assign the way I think that they assign the bowls here for, and also the rotation stuff like that. Um, they gave Notre Dame and Penn State the Orange Bowl because the number two team was Georgia, um, and number one. Yeah, I don't know. I think what they did was they said, well, Oregon's closer to Dallas, so let's give them that, and and then we'll give Penn State or we'll give Georgia. Well, they get what's left, which is the Orange Bowl, and things just didn't work out. And Notre Dame and Penn State are playing right now in Miami, and Texas and Ohio State are playing right now. But um, now the one thing is, even though Ohio State woke up, they blew out Tennessee at home, they blew out Oregon. Oregon was the second time they faced Oregon. That was the second time they faced Oregon this year in the Rose Bowl. Um, they they do have to play, even though Austin is a couple hours away. They are going to be playing essentially a road game in Jerry World. And the one thing is, I know Ohio State is the heavy favorite to win going into today's game. But you know what? I'm liking Texas here. I think that playing close to home, I think that helps them a lot here. And even though Ohio State, they've been clicking on all cylinders the last 2 weeks, and Texas, they kind of struggled against Arizona State, or was Arizona State up to the task? That's the question you have to ask. But they did take care of Clemson. They had trouble with Arizona State, but I kind of expect that, because Arizona State has been the Cinderella story, being the team that was supposed to finish last in their conference, but they still got to this point. But I'm going to take Texas in an upset, winning winning the Cotton Bowl in in Dallas, and it will be Texas versus whoever wins, according to me, in the um, in the national championship game in about 10 days. Damn it! I need to do one thing here. There we go. So the one thing I do is for um, those are wonder why I'm kind of stopping here for a second. What I do is, and maybe I get a Discord set up this week. I've hijacked uh, SJ's um, Discord. I've using that for my betting. Uh, so Texas at plus 185 is my pick for tomorrow's Cotton Bowl game. So the semifinal game at the Cotton Bowl. So that is my college pick. Um, Let me check one thing here. Tomorrow, man, there's a game at 11 a.m. Jesus. Uh, Remember when Friday night basketball in college used to just be the Ivy League? Uh, yeah, I'm not touching any of those games. Okay, so we're not touching any of those games. So we are going to move. Um, we are going to move to the NFL, and I'm not going to pick all 6 games here, but we're going to pick a few of these games here tonight, and we'll see if we can get you guys some winners and get myself back on the positive side of things here. So first is LA Chargers in Houston. Houston really, even though they won the division, they've been a disappointment in my eyes. They went 10-7 this year, but they really seem like a disappointment. CJ Stroud to me has taken a step back, and I really think that Jim Harbaugh has uh, really helped the Chargers get to the next level. There, going 11-6, doing wonders for a team that was a rudderless ship towards the end of last year. They gave up 63 points to the Raiders last year, as I mentioned earlier on in the show. But um, the one thing I also have to wonder, and these are some of the things that I take into account, and sometimes you talk about little things like you know the psyche and some of the intangibles go in there. Sometimes I go with stats, sometimes I go with feel and all that, but uh, you wonder, is there something going on, in the heads of the Chargers, flying to Houston and then, even though they may not be necessarily in those areas that are ravaged by fires right now, you wonder, you know, are we playing for the city of LA? Are we worried about our families and stuff like that? But either way, I still think the Chargers are a better team here. And I think Jim Harbaugh, he is going to be a hard out this year. Um, I think that his experience in both college and pro, actually getting to the Super Bowl with San Francisco, I think that's going to help the Chargers a lot here. And I'm going to take the Chargers here at -3 at -105. And we will take the Chargers to win this game. I think they win this by 6 or 7 here. So, I mean, Houston really hasn't impressed me offensively this year. Um, but, they could. And also remember, the Chargers, they gave up the least amount of points this year. They gave up 301 points, which is 2 points less than the Eagles. Um, Chargers gave up 301 and the Eagles gave up 303. And I missed the days where a team would only be in the 200s with given points, but 301 points isn't a bad total because that is uh, it's 17 points a game. So, you give up 17 points a game, you're going to win a ton of games unless your offense is total shit. But but they did score 402 points, which is 23.6 points a game. So, but but the Eagles they've scored 463 this year, which is 27.2. Um, I'll take the Chargers here. I think they're the better team here, and um, I just think Houston they got the 10-7, but they played in a weak division and they didn't impress me. But CJ Stroud, he could also go back, move forward, take a step forward here as well. So we'll take the Chargers -3 at -105. Um, let's go to the Sunday games here. Just peeking at the Monday night game here real quick before I go anywhere else. Okay, so so the first game is Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I'm not going to play that game. I lean Baltimore here, but the thing is, usually these games, they're usually one possession games, even a field goal or less. You had the rare blowout game the last time they played in Baltimore a few weeks ago, so we'll see what happens. But I'm not touching that game whatsoever. Um, Now, Buffalo takes on Denver. Denver, first time they've been in the playoffs in 10 years. You wonder if um, maybe they're just, maybe they're a little ahead of schedule, or maybe, they do have a lot of guys that do not have the experience. They got Bo Nix, who probably is a year away from really wreaking havoc in the AFC, but he's got to take on the Bills. You got to take on um, Josh Allen, and I think this is, but this isn't like the Miami Dolphins going to Buffalo, even though they do tend to go to Buffalo in December. This isn't a warm weather team going to Buffalo. This is a cold weather team in Denver who, you know, could pull off the upset here, but I don't see it happening here. I think Buffalo is a much better team here. And I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills here, -8.5, -108. Buffalo advances and wins rather easily here, and I'll take them to win that game. I'm going to skip over to Eagles Packers because I usually pick every Eagles game, something on the Eagles game. I usually do that last. Um, Washington and Tampa. Now, personally, if I was the NFL, I would have made Green Bay Eagles the Sunday night game and Tampa Bay Washington the 4:30 game. But the 4:30 game on Sunday is the game that you usually put your best game on, and Washington and Tampa Bay is um, all the where all the eyes are because everybody wants to see Jaden Daniels. And SJ, hello, welcome in. Hope you're doing well out there. Hope you're staying warm because even here in Philly, it is very cold. You said hi. I saw it. Yeah, it is cold here, and it's been and with especially with the way that my apartment is set up here, I get the cold winds. I've been getting the winds 4 or 5 days at like 20, 25 miles an hour, and it has been today was especially cold, but I think the winds have subsided some here today, but we'll let's get back to the picks here. Um, Washington takes on Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay was probably looking ahead to playoff football, um, even though they should have had the blinders on, blow out the Saints, get it over with, win the game, win the division, go to the next round. They also got a little bit of help with Carolina beating Atlanta, even though their game ended up first. But I don't think, see, Washington, they can be beat with they can be beat here. Let me just check one thing here. And by the way, the game is tied in Miami 24-24. And I did tell the guys last night to take the over on that game, even though that wasn't my pick for here. But let me just see one thing here. Stats, team stats. Uh, Let me just check one thing. Um, yeah, they're actually giving up 140 yards a game rushing. They only give up about 190 in passing a game. That's net yards passing. So, you do have that. Um, they do. Um, they had 3,665 passing yards, about 215 a game. They run for a buck 54 a game. So, but you know, I just think that sometimes you get that deer in headlights thing going. And let me just check Tampa Bay here. They're giving up 97 yards a game rushing. They are giving up 243 yards per game passing. So I'll tell you what. Sometimes you got to go with the deer in headlights theory, and with the rookie quarterback, you're either going to get a quarterback who you know is not going to know what hits them, or they're going to be totally oblivious to everything. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a deer in headlights here. I'll take Tampa Bay -3 at -115. I say that they win this game by a touchdown, and it may be that Tampa Bay would be coming here to Philadelphia next week if the Eagles win this game here. Um, Minnesota and the Rams. You know what? With everything that's going on uh, in LA, this line jumped from 1 to 2.5 once they announced that this game was going to be played in Arizona as opposed to LA. So I'm not. That's a game where I'm just going to watch and enjoy the game and not deal with any picks here. But personally, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams win this outright. So if you wanted to go there with the +110, feel free to do so. Um, Now Eagles take on Green Bay, and SJ says interesting. So we get to the game that matters to me the most, and that's Eagles and Packers. Um, I think that there is some, um, some nefarious things going on both in Green Bay and in Philly. Green Bay with Jordan Love, they're not telling you too much about his elbow injury, and they were the Eagles were kind of coy with Jalen Hurts, even though he was a full practice participant today. So he is going to be playing, and I don't know. And I didn't investigate this enough, and I apologize for that. But I'm just wondering, does this line shoot up to 5, 6, or 7 once we know for sure that Jalen Hurts is officially out of concussion protocol, because the fact that he was a full participant today tells you that he is 99.9% out of concussion protocol. He's just got to meet that final test tomorrow morning when he walks into the building, and they'll do the cognitive tests or whatever tests they do. They'll say, "All right, he's good. He's ready to go." And I just think that with everything that's going on here, let me pull up the Packers here. Um, some of the stats here for the Packers. Green Bay. Uh, they only give up 215 pass yards a game. They give up 99 rushing a game, but they did have problems with Saquon Barkley in the first game, which most of the teams did all year. But the Eagles had the number one defense in the league. So, and it's the first time that they were number one in the league since 1991. But the Eagles are giving up 104 yards on the ground a game. They give up only 174 passing yards a game. So it's going to be a little tougher Green Bay here. Um, you know, and the weather won't be a factor because both teams are used to the cold, so you won't have to worry of anything like that. Now, I'm just wondering if this 4.5 is already built into the fact that Jalen Hurts is going to be out of concussion protocol tomorrow. I don't know. I think so. But either way, I think that the Eagles will advance. I'll take the Eagles minus 4.5 at minus 115. Personally, I don't like that minus 115, but because this is the Philly fade, I try to ignore that for a little bit. So I'm going to take the Eagles here minus 4.5 at minus 115. I'm going with four favorites here. And that's, I don't know if that's good or not, uh, but those are my four picks for this game here. I'm going with the Chargers minus 105, or minus 3 at minus 105. I'm going with the Bills minus 8.5 at minus 108. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Bucks. They are minus 3 at minus 115. And the EAGLES Eagles minus 4.5 at minus 115. Those are my four NFL picks. And like I've said in the past, this is the Philly fade. Now is your decision. Do you play my picks or do you fade them? It's all up to you. So we'll see what happens this weekend, and hopefully, especially with I wouldn't mind going 1-4 this week if that one win is the Eagles covering. So, uh, but I like the Eagles big time here, and um, hopefully we'll get to see a Eagles win and get a rematch against Tampa Bay, which would be here, and Tampa Bay would have to play in the cold. But but we'll see everything that happens here coming up here on this weekend. So